Alright, so just working on hogging these holes out for each primary. Got them marked and I got a carbide bit there. Going to just get those matched up best I can. That way there's not, any turbulence, whatever. Get as close to that marker as I can and get those welded in. And got a head over here, gonna bolt it all up and tack weld it. Probably fully welded on here. That way you have something to bolt for the flange to bolt to and keep everything nice and flat. Hopefully we won't have any warping. This flange is, I don't know, these are like 1/2 inch, pretty thick actually. A little bit too thick. I think I'm gonna have to clearance it a little bit for the spark plugs actually, because the socket doesn't want to go on the spark plugs when it's bolted to the head on the car actually. So we'll see how that goes. I'll probably have to notch it out just a little bit with the bit there, but won't be a big deal. And I think for the passenger side, I'm just going to use the stock GTO manifold pointed in the OEM direction towards the back, and gonna chop all the studs and that like flange deal off there. And I got these 2 1/4 inch V bands that I'm gonna just weld on there. Done it before on a few of these manifolds and truck manifolds as well, and works out just fine. Never had any issue with cracking or anything like that. As most of you know, that's cast steel, not cast iron, so yeah, it welds real nice and holds up well. Never had one crack or fail. And this is pretty much what I'm gonna have to do for downpipe. This is just to see if it would fit. This is a 2 1/4 on top and 3 inch on the bottom. And I'm gonna pass it. The passenger side is gonna go around underneath the bell housing and come up right there. And basically I'm just gonna make a section to pass through this area right here and weld the pipes together just like this, and then V-band them on this back side here. That way you could take it apart, get the downpipe out and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's basically gonna go through just like that. Downpipe's gonna come off the turbo and kind of come over here, go right into there, and the passenger side manifolds are just gonna come up right here and join underneath, like underneath here, I think, or here, one of these two spots here, whatever works out best, to basically make them emerge right before the turbo flange. Then wastegate's gonna go right here. So got all the holes hogged out. The bit here makes a quick work of that. Probably the best thing I've ever used for that. I mean, the hole saw gets it pretty close, but some of these holes are kind of like oval shaped and whatnot. When you're merging from like an angle like that, it ends up being not perfectly round. So you could hole saw right in the middle and then do the rest with like something like this, or like a sanding drum or something like that. I tried the sanding drums at first, and those didn't really work out too well. They wear out really quick, especially like on the edge of like a thin pipe and the hole right there. And you're constantly changing them pretty much. So, but these right here, if you buy a good set, they really don't wear out like that. This is a used one that I got. I'm gonna have to trim this pipe back still a little bit. It was just kind of rough fit, but that one's not the best angle. I don't know, it'll probably work just fine like that. Maybe I'll change that a little bit, the way it comes into the hole for the head on the header flange. I don't know, I don't really like it that much, but this one probably be fine just like that. That's about perfect. I mean, it doesn't have to come all the way to the edge, I don't think. This one needs to be, it kind of protrudes out a little bit, you can see, but I could just grind that down a little bit and everything will be good there. So yeah, just basically went to the sharp about halfway through or up to the sharpie line. Could clean them up a little bit more, but for the most part, they're pretty much done. Just deburr them a little bit, and it'll be ready to weld up. Got these all deburred here. Used the sanding drum, clean it all up, and just regular old file to get inside the holes. Get that burr off the inside edge. Kind of clean everything up with like a Scotch-Brite pad here. Just, you know, these have been sitting around for a little while. I haven't worked on this in some time since the last time I shot some video. So they had a little bit of surface rust going on them. So yeah, just clean everything off, and that'll make a better weld. And then even if it's just MIG weld, not like it's TIG or anything like that. So got that all cleaned up and nice, looking pretty good. Everything matches up. And then gonna go ahead and get, there's like mill slag, kind of see it on there. I cleaned it off of that one. Just gonna hit it with the grinder real quick and get this like I don't know if it's like, I think it's mill slag they call it or whatever it is. I don't know. From like cold rolled maybe, like plate or something. Get that all off of there because the welder doesn't weld nearly as nice with that on top of it. As you can see right here, this is bare metal, and then this is where like the mill scales on there. So gonna clean that all up and grind it all off, and get the primaries tacked in. Probably fully weld it over here on the head. That way everything doesn't move, and the flange doesn't tend to warp. Then you have like a heat sink basically. Pull all the heat out of it and keep it from warping. I do the same thing with the turbo flanges. I bolt the exhaust housing to the flange to do this weld, or else this flange warps like big time. Same thing with V-bands as well. You're either gonna want to clamp this or have another clamp if you don't want to use your new one. Buy like an extra if you're going to use these clamps pretty often, like the same size, and put that clamp on there every time just for welding, because you're going to get a little bit of spatter on there. If you're MIG welding, that is. If you're TIG welding, you could probably just use the one that comes with it and they'll be fine. But yeah, you're going to want to clamp these, put some tension on them, and then weld them onto whatever pipe. And you want to do it for both ends, or else they will warp. I've gotten away with it a few times in the beginning when I first started doing stuff like this and making turbo setups, and it didn't warp, and like 2 or 3 would not warp, and then all of a sudden on the 4th or 5th one the thing would warp for whatever reason and be way off. It wouldn't even make a seal at all. So yeah, it just sucks. You just end up sounding like an old 350 small block with an exhaust header leak ticking away in your V-band. Your nice V-band and hot sides trash, you know, because I mean, you just have the locating rings, or the locating like lips on the inside of them to help you line the pipes up. It's a nice machine finish in there, and they line up perfectly. And then you have like a receiver groove for your pipe here and all that, you know. And I mean, you don't want to grind that off inside here, the alignment grooves for the 2 V-band halves. I mean, you could flatten it back out on a belt sander afterwards, but you know, why do that when you could just clamp these together before you weld them, and prevents that from warping altogether. So if you didn't know, now you do. So went ahead and got this all knocked out and welded up. After this, just have to work on that crossover and get the downpipe going, and then I can move on to the cold side. Just welded it up with a little 100 120 volt Hobart handler 125. Nothing too special or anything. That has plenty of heat. On the lowest setting, doing pipe to pipe welds, you basically have to go as fast as you can or else it will burn straight through. And then on the flange, you just crank it up to, there's only 1 through 4 setting. You could crank it up to like 2 or 3 on the flanges, and it gets pretty decent amount of heat in those. So I mean, you don't need much more for just doing like mild steel welding and whatnot at home. You could just get away with that little $350 welder with a gas tank there and make some pretty decent stuff that holds up. I mean, I'd like to get a TIG here pretty soon. That way I can start making pretty stuff, but I do what I can with the MIG. It isn't the best, but I mean, it does the job. Not too bad. I'm no professional. That's for sure. I just kind of tinkered around and watched some YouTube videos and figured it out on my own basically, and did some practice on some pipes and whatnot, and I was off to making my own turbo kits. I mean, anybody could pretty much do it. If I could do it, you could do it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I mean, that doesn't look terrible. I mean, it's a MIG weld. Unless you're welding some nice plate or something like that, some nice thick plate, you can make some really nice looking MIG welds. But on this pipe stuff, you gotta go pretty quick. So can't really get it too pretty. I'm sure other people are, a lot better at it than me, but this works. So it definitely stands up to the test of time. I haven't had any failures myself, and this is my 5th or 6th turbo setup that I made now. So yeah, so I'll get it on the car here in a second and hang the turbo on it and see what it looks like on the car all welded up. Got the turbo on there, just bolted up so you can see about where it sits. And you can see a little, let's see if I get the light here. The piece that I showed earlier, the 3-inch pipe with the 2 1/4 kind of taped to the top of it to kind of show what I was going to try to do here past the steering shaft. So basically the plan here is to make the 3-inch part of the down pipe first. Should be able to pass it right on down through here, past the frame rail and kind of above the alternator here, right underneath this primary, and keep it low. So it's basically where that 3-inch pipe is down there towards the bottom, the biggest area between the steering rack and the frame rail. And yeah, I'll make the down pipe there, and then after that I think I'm going to make the 2 1/4 part from the passenger side manifold. I'm gonna bring that around and basically follow the down pipe and weld it to the top of the down pipe so it's all like one assembly, and make it come up in here or underneath right here maybe to emerge before the turbo. And I'll put like a V-band somewhere around right here, and then bring it right to the down pipe and have it welded to it so it follows it perfectly. And then down there after the steering shaft, have as it goes straight down, have it just 45 off maybe, and right off the 45 put another V-band so you can detach it down there and here, and then undo the turbo here after you undo the crossover coming up here, and pull the turbo or manifold off, whatever. I think I'm going to probably have to install the downpipe in the crossover, just kind of lay it down in here first and then put the manifold on, and then with the turbo and all that, and then bring that up and attach everything, then go underneath the car and attach the crossover from the other side. But I think that should work. There's a decent amount of room there. I put those pipes in there before without this manifold in, and I was able to turn the steering shaft, and it was off of the boot down there by about an inch or two, and it was off the frame rail, and the knuckle on the steering shaft didn't hit, so I think it'll be good there. This turbo here, I mean, it's not going to make more than what a 3-inch downpipe could handle anyway. It's a cast wheel, 78, 75. So the outlet on the turbine wheel is 3 inches anyway. So, yeah, not going to need much bigger downpipe anyhow, because the compressor wheel and the turbine wheel can't make much more than what a 3-inch pipe can make as it is. Should be able to, with a cutout down there underneath, right at the bottom of the downpipe, like a 3-inch boost activated cutout or something like that, you'll be able to make no problem like 800-900 out of a 3-inch downpipe, as long as there's a cutout right there. If you try to join it up to an exhaust and run it all the way to the back, you might run into a little bit of a back pressure issue. Say you put a billet wheel 78, 75 on here, like there's a billet wheel of this exact turbo from BS Racing, and there's also a Gen 2 VS Racing. It's got like a new, better billet wheel, and the housing's a little bit bigger, flow a little bit more air, and the back side is the same turbine wheel, but it's in a different housing now. It's kind of in the, it looks like they're like S400 T4 turbine housing. It looks the same as the turbos I got for this car over here that I'm going to be putting on there soon. So, but yeah, that's the plan for that. I'm going to start making this downpipe here. I got to cut this back about as far as I could get here, and then I'm going to try to just see if a 90 will work and clear this primary. I kind of angled the turbo a little bit too far towards the primary. I wanted to kind of be more this way, and I didn't realize it before I actually finished welding everything up with the primary in there. So I think it'll still work like this. If not, I could cut this and turn the turbo just a little bit, but I'm pretty sure I could just get a 90 on here. I'll see if I can do that first. If not, I can make a couple nice pie cuts and make a nice sharp bend that hopefully won't hurt flow too much. And yeah, like, I mean, the reason why I had it turned like this in the first place was so it'd fit nicely down there, be able to get the pipe out and not cut into the wheel tub at all. And then we're keeping AC, so I didn't want to get into the AC line. I already massaged it a little bit and bent it, so as you can see, it just comes straight up over here. And I already bent it a little bit to go around, but I didn't want to touch, so it's not touching. It's not touching anything down there, so that's pretty good as it is. If I turn the turbo any more this way, it'll start getting into stuff over here, so I don't know. We'll see what happens when I start making this downpipe here in a minute. And yeah, once I start making that, I'll show you that too.